welcome to 24/7 Lifestyle with me, Madeline. We've got another fantastic guest for you today, the Kumbaya King himself, James Partridge. Welcome, James. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for chatting.
That's all right. That's all right. What's going on this week? You got a busy week going on?
Yeah, so I've got some teaching. I'm in school. Well, I'm not teaching as much as I used to now, but as this is kind of taking over slightly. I'm also going back to my old university and having a bit of a reunion type thing there, which is nice. So
Very
that's
nice.
that's at the weekend. So yeah, keeping busy. And also I've got the piano behind me and I've been doing some Christmas carol recordings. So I'm also recording an album from my bedroom and I'll be putting it on Spotify at some point.
Oh, sort of informal studio going on there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay, let's go into it. The main thing for you is sort of nostalgia for school days. That's what sort of draws people to you, and you have an extensive repertoire of classic assembly tunes. How do you keep your repertoire fresh? Do you try and incorporate maybe lesser known things? How do you come up with new ideas for things to perform?
So I have a bit of a kind of a core repertoire of assembly bangers that I can't really do without. So things like He's Got the Whole World in His Hands, Give Me All in My Lamp, This Little Light of Mine, Kumbaya, of course. So those are tunes that I have to really put in the show when I'm touring it around. But then I do kind of intersperse the more well-known songs with some possibly slightly less well-known assembly tunes, but also in between, I do other songs from my childhood. So I talk about my time in the school discos, so, singing tunes from S Club 7 and Atomic Kitten and things like that. So I do mix it up with some pop songs because it's not just the school hymns that stay with us for the rest of our lives. It's the songs we grew up singing, and whether they are the assembly hymns or whether they are classic cheesy pop songs we sang along to at the school disco. And a lot of those words we'll never forget. So I try and mix some of those in, and even have little snippets of TV theme tunes and things that we remember and we grew up with. So I have a little bit of a nostalgia hit for from lots of different angles.
It's a whole era. With idea in mind, sort of you're drawing in sort of Gen Z kids as well, and I think maybe they have sort of different things in assembly, maybe more like secular type stuff. How are you appealing to them as well? How are you drawing in that new generation?
I do slightly I do use them as the butt of the joke sometimes, just
Right.
because in a light-hearted way, it's all very inclusive. I'm not I'm not a comedian that will just absolutely just tear someone to shreds. So I'll say something like to the people from Gen Z, we had something growing up in the 80s and 90s called videotapes, and there were plastic things we used to watch, that sort of thing. But the funny thing is, actually, a lot of the songs that we sang at school, they did carry on to different generations. So not all of them, but some, as I said, some of that core repertoire is still sung to this day in a lot of schools, depending on whether it's a religious school or not.
That's good to know that those traditions are being kept alive, and you're also educating the youth on the joys of blockbuster video. That's very
Yeah,
important.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Rewinding the tape, and all that before you take it back.
I'll never know the joy. Um,
Yeah.
so you did Glastonbury last year, which was looked absolutely amazing. I would have died to be there. Talk us through that. How was that? Are you hopefully going to do it again?
I would love to do it again. I would do it in a heartbeat. It's sadly not on next year. They've got a fallow year, so we've got to have a year off. So we'll give some other festivals a chance to get involved as well. But it was an amazing experience, and it's just one of those absolute bucket list moments for any musician to be able to say those immortal words, "Hello, Glastonbury," on a Glastonbury stage. But I honestly never thought it would happen, and I slightly kind of hustled my way in a funny way, because I actually applied to perform. So it wasn't a competition as such. It was just an open application for anyone to perform in the theatre fields
All right.
at Glastonbury. And I sent in an email and said, this was 2024, and I said, oh, I've been touring around with a school assembly sing-along type show. And I think they were just like, oh yeah, this is sounds a bit too random. But then when I put together a trailer for the Edinburgh Fringe, which I did last summer, and I sent it to them of clips from the show, and that kind of gave them an idea of what it was like. And they said, okay, well, we'll give you a set in the corner of the theatre in Circus Fields in a small stage, and we'll see if people come along. And then people kind of descended on it. It was an amazing moment. And then this year it was even more people. They had to shut off the entire field, which was just kind of a slightly hilarious, but um, again, unbelievable moment when they said we have to shut the theatre fields because too many people want to come and sing along to the primary school assembly bangers. And then the BBC were filming it on the stage as well, which was yeah, fantastic.
It was amazing. There was like crowds singing along to Shine, Jesus, Shine. It was just
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
so that's like probably about the biggest venue you can get. So for Wembley, how do you sort of adapt your set for like sort of smaller venues?
It's quite interesting actually because I've performed different versions of my show probably about 250 times now in lots of different types of venues. So I started off playing in a cocktail bar actually in Soho in East London and in Soho and that kind of graduated into like small comedy clubs and art centers and then small theaters and it's gradually building to the point where I've got some shows booked in quite large theaters and even kind of concert halls and things like that, which it is interesting and kind of adapting it um is just the way I perform it because if I'm in a small kind of comedy club type atmosphere, it will be a rowdier crowd and people might be well, I was going to say people might be chatting a bit, but that normally when people do chat during the songs, it's normally because I'll start playing a song and they say, "Oh yes, I remember that one. Do you remember when our teacher did that at school?" Or "Do you remember that kid that did this in assembly?" So it normally sparks memories when I start playing a tune. So I don't mind a little bit of chatting, but then I do have to get into kind of strict teacher mode sometimes when it's getting too much and I have to say, fingers on lips or all eyes on me or that kind of thing. It's your own time you're wasting. So I do have to get into teacher mode a little bit with some of the slightly rowdier crowds. But in a larger theatre, I think people are slightly more well behaved. I think it does also slightly depend on the amount of alcohol flowing as well. So um, so I do have to adapt to it a little bit. But that's I think that is kind of second nature for a teacher. You might have a very well behaved class. You might have a quite a misbehave a group of people misbehaving. So you do just have to adapt your approaches sometimes.
Yeah, those teacher skills really coming in for the crowd control.
They do, yeah. It's basically the same thing. It's just crowd control, basically.
So speaking of tours, you've got your big Christmas assembly tour coming up. I believe that starts in November. You have a lot of dates. How are you feeling about that?
I'm feeling very excited. It is quite early to start a Christmas tour on the 2nd of November, I do admit. But I just wanted to go to as many places as I could, and I think post Halloween, we can just about get away with starting Christmas songs. I am slightly annoying everyone around me by practicing my Christmas tunes and like recording some Christmas carols and things like that. But I mean, I love the tunes, and I genuinely say, it is a shame that you can only sing them at one time of the year because some of the songs are so great that you can only really sing them in kind of 6 weeks within a year. But when I do my regular touring, I do actually have one moment in the show where I say, I know it's June or whatever it is, but would you be up for singing one Christmas song? And the reaction is always a resounding yes, and people cheering. And I actually get people to choose the song by a paper fortune teller that I've made. If you remember that from school, so I'll do say pick a color, pick a number, and then they'll choose under every number is a different song from my Christmas set list, and then they'll choose a song, whether it's Jingle Bells or Little Donkey or Ding Dong Merrily on High or whatever it is. And everyone just absolutely belts it out. And then people say more, and I say, well, you gotta wait. You gotta wait until the end of the year.
Um, do you have any other exciting projects coming up over the next few months, or is it
Yeah, well, I've actually just finished writing a children's book, which is actually it's not necessarily related to assembly singing. It's a just a fiction book for children, and so that's coming out in the I think in about a month or so. So
that
that's the stories of a girl who discovers a land within her piano, basically.
brilliant? So, have you completed that book? Is that ready for print?
Yeah, it's ready to go. I think it's available for pre-orders on Amazon at the moment.
Everybody, check it out. Um,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Um, People can be very, you've touched on very like uninhibited at your gig. It doesn't matter if you sing out of tune as long as you're getting involved. Why do you think people love that so much? What do you think? Why do
I,
people?
I I try to say to people, this is a safe space. I'm not going to judge you. I might make you get on stage. You never know. But it's I genuinely do want the gigs that I do to be safe spaces for people just to get involved, and they can sing as much or as little as they want. And I say, if you know the words to these songs, belt them out. If you don't know the words to the songs, you can do what you did at school and mime along. You're not going to get detention. It's fine. And I think it's great because people can. I think basically most people love just singing along to tunes that they know, and it makes them feel good. You'll do it when you're in your car and you're listening to the radio. You'll put on a playlist of guilty pleasures, whatever. If you feel like there's no one else listening, then you'll just sing along as loud, as loud as you can, no matter whether you're a trained singer or if you just like singing just for fun. I think that's what's so great. And even though I am a music teacher, I want people to sing along to whatever ability they have. And I think having that mass of people singing, sometimes I'll see someone that's been dragged along to the show as like a plus one, and it's usually like a boyfriend or a husband that's kind of sat there with their arms crossed and they don't want to get involved. Then after a couple of tunes, they kind of look around them and think, oh, what the hell? I'll just get involved. So then they usually start singing louder than everybody else, and by the end they're kind of waving their hands and getting up and stuff. So I think it's a great. I don't know. It's a great time to it's a great opportunity for people to just get involved and kind of lose their inhibitions of if they think they can't sing or whatever. It's just no one's judging you. Just get together. I think Christmas especially is a good time for that because um, everyone knows the songs. Everyone wants to sing along and get involved.
Fantastic. You are very big on social media. You've got a big TikTok following. How do you keep coming up with new video ideas?
So I well, first of all, there are lots and lots of different songs that we all sang together. So I quite like to just sing songs and say, "Do you remember this song?" or sing along or that type of thing. And sometimes they'll be very well-known songs. Sometimes I'll say, "Here's one that is a forgotten song from your childhood that I might dive into the depths of some of the many, many songbooks that I've got here and bring back a song from obscurity." And people say, "Yes, I remember this one. I've had it in the back of my mind for the last 30 years, and I can't believe someone else knows this." And quite often people say, "Oh, I thought my teacher just made up that song." A lot of people just assume their teachers wrote the songs, but but then aside from that, I've been from January. I started a podcast which I did every week for half the year actually. I just put it on pause for a little bit while I prepare for the Christmas tour. But I also posted clips from the podcast where I talk about the songs we grew up with. And so it might be a clip of me playing them, or it might be a clip of me talking about music, or the benefits of singing together, that sort of thing. Or it might be a video of my cat jumping up and sitting on my lap. So you never know. Well, what's your cat's name?
He's called Bagheera, but he's known as Baggy, and he's
Oh,
very,
nice.
yeah.
Is he a Siamese?
He is, yeah, and very noisy. He loves to chat.
Oh, that's amazing. I do have two cats. One of them just walked past me, but they actually really like it when I play the piano, and they'll quite often just sit on my lap while I'm playing. I don't know what it is about it, but it might be the vibrations of the piano or something. But they do quite or it might be that I'm just sat in one place and they've got a lap to sit on.
Um, you mentioned your Notes from School podcast. Any sort of dream guests? Anyone you'd love to collab with on that?
Oh, I mean, there's a couple of people that I'd love to talk to at some point. I'd love to talk to some songwriters actually. Um, Someone like it sounds slightly random, but someone like Gary Barlow, for example, because his songs are actually sung in school now. So there's a song that he wrote called "Sing," and so many schools sing that tune. Um, but obviously, a lot of the pop songs that he wrote, would take that and as solo, they've resonated with so many people's childhoods, and so many people have positive memories. It'd be really interesting to talk to some other musicians and some songwriters like that to get their perspective on why they think music resonates so well with people and what it can do. Um, the positivity it can bring from just getting people together and singing. And I suppose, yeah, I think it. I think if I could work on anything else in the future, I'd love to kind of expand on what I'm doing and and look into maybe working with choirs and working with on maybe on a high level to figure out how the communal singing can really kind of bring people together and the health benefits it has as well, psychologically and physically as well.
Absolutely. And you do, as you said, keep your hand in teaching it in schools.
Yeah.
How important is music education to you still?
Oh, well, I think it's massively important. I think there's so much that can be gained um, from a very young age because it's such a formative time in the younger years to learn through music and actually even in lessons that aren't music, music can help. So whether it's languages or even maths and sciences, quite often a song can help you learn something, and that will stick in your mind a lot better than just reading from a textbook. And with music, there are so many elements that can engage different parts of your brain. So there is the mathematics of looking at a piece of music, counting the beats, um, engaging with your physical side as well. So being able to clap in time from a very young age, I think engaging with your motor skills if you're playing the piano or doing percussion or anything. So I think that music education is quite often seen as a luxury or just something extra. Let's have a fun sing along or play on some instruments. But actually, the importance of it really can't be underestimated, I don't think. And I think if there's any way that we can um, just keep the funding going for that, that would be fantastic.
Absolutely, it's so important. And as you say, when they make cuts, it's often one of the first things to go, and that's just so sad because, as you say, it has so many benefits.
It's totally counterintuitive and actually even from a purely kind of economic level, the arts and music in the UK, it brings in so much money to the economy and just to cut funding at a at the level of education, but also the level of kind of youth centers and music hubs and things like that, it just makes absolutely no sense because if you're taking away the opportunities for people to get together as a community, then you're creating division within society and communities, So it's such an amazing way to bring people together that it just makes no sense to cut the funding to it.
It absolutely doesn't. And we must keep music alive, and we must keep
Yeah,
going to James Partridge concerts and engage.
there we go. Yeah, that's one way to bring people together. Yeah,
James, thank you so much for speaking to me today. Everybody, if you want to see James live, please grab tickets for his big Christmas Assembly tour, which will be starting in November, or check out his new book. Thank you so much for speaking with me.
thanks so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.